Want to know something y'all don't care about at all? I left my tea in the other room. I really wanted it for this. Want to know something you guys do care about? I just saw the Batman. I actually saw it a week ago, and I'm finally allowed to talk about it. Of course, my darlings, it's going to be a non-spoiler review because I am not a piece of shit. Yeah. Yeah, I saw the Batman. This was my most anticipated movie of 2022. And I'm guessing it's a lot of your most anticipated movie of the year as well. If you don't know me, if you have no background on me, I'm a massive DC Comics gal. I co hosted a show called DC Movie News for 7 years, and I'm a big Batman friend. I'm a big Batman girl. I have had my pinned tweet. I was going to call it my twinned Pete. My pinned tweet say, I'm not saying that I'm Batman, but nobody has ever seen me and Batman in the same room since I think probably 2016 or something along those lines. Maybe a little later than that, but I've had that forever. And it's because I love me some Batman. And in many times in life, wish I am Batman, wish I was Batman. So today is all about The Batman, which is the name of the movie that Matt Reeves made about, you guessed it, Batman. And this morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time, the embargo was up, and I am shocked to see Twitter or Critic Twitter's reaction. And I'll give you guys that. If you have questions, comments, concerns, streamlabs.com/Roxy Stryer. Get in your super chats, your Streamlabs. Ask me what it is you want to know about the Batman. If you ask me a question and my answer would have to have a spoiler, then I'm not going to answer the question because, as I told you, I am not a jackass. The song's getting better and better. But if you ask me anything to do with the movie that I can answer, I absolutely will. So here are my overall thoughts on The Batman. I think the movie is super duper solid. It's really good. Did I have incredibly high expectations going into this? And had I heard from people that this was going to be the number one best Batman movie of all time and that you would just absolutely love it? Yes, I did think that. I thought I was going to go into this and walk out mind blown, floor, jaw on the ground, can't breathe, the same way that I felt when I walked out of TDK. And no, this review is not going to always be a comparison to not every Batman movie needs to be The Dark Knight, which is my favorite comic book movie of all time. But of course, when it's a Batman movie, you're going to compare it to other Batmen and other Batman movies. You're going to compare our Pats to, why was Clooney the first one that popped in my mind? But okay, to Kilmer, to Keaton. You're gonna play the comparison game because that makes sense. So it's a little bit of what I'll do, but for the most part, I just kind of want to talk about this movie, and it's really good. The best part about this movie is that it looks like a multi-billion-dollar film. They could not have done a better job with how this movie looks. It is just so incredibly detailed, and from the noir type vibe, the black and red of it all, to the intricacies in actual Gotham, to the way that every single set piece, every single costume looked. I really like Batman's costume in this, by the way. It took me a second to be like, do I like what's going on here, especially in the lower half? And then I was like, and it sounded like lower half was about his penis. It was more about his legs and his calves. But I really did. By the end of this, I was like, this is for sure the best looking Batman movie we have ever gotten. It's mind blowing how you can create an entire city that feels like a real city. You're watching and you're just thinking to yourself, how is this place not real? This city has an energy, it has a vibe. This has to exist because how could somebody create a whole fucking city for a movie that looks like this? It just was brilliantly beautiful. Actually, I don't know if beautiful is the right word because it's not like everything was shiny, shimmering, splendid. It was brilliantly, brilliantly brilliant. The way that it looked was brilliantly brilliant, and I stand by that. There was some interesting musical choices. I love 90% of what they did, 80% of what they did musically. There, as you guys know from the trailer, this whole thing has a very grunge Nirvana vibe. And if you guys know anything about me, I am obsessed with Nirvana, Soundgarden, Audioslave, anything that has to do with the 90s and grunge music. It felt like this could have been a Nirvana Batman crossover event because it was so, I don't want to use the words dark and gritty the way that DC used to use those words, because it was not dark and gritty in that way, but it did. It had grit and it had this darkness and more so this edge to it. If we ever had gotten the Death of Superman Lives with Nicolas Cage, I kind of imagine that what Nicolas Cage's Superman would have been, and also what emo Spider-Man was when we had him for 0.2 seconds with the side part, is kind of where we were at with Batman in this movie. He's very emo. He feels like a kid who grew up the same time that I grew up, in the same kind of, no, I'm going to close the door. I'm going to listen to Nirvana in my room. I don't want to come downstairs, Dad. That's kind of what it felt like. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It just felt very different than the previous Batman that we have seen. There was also very little Bruce Wayne in this movie. And if there is a sequel to this, if we do get to see more Robert Pattinson as Batman, I would be very interested in really exploring his Bruce Wayne side, because we got a lot of Batman, which was exciting. It is a Batman movie, but we just didn't get that much Bruce. And I wanted to see the range on Robert Pattinson in a way that we were not able to. Was Robert Pattinson a completely serviceable, good Batman? Yes, absolutely. Do I feel confident at this point in time that I know the extent of his potential? Not really. It's almost kind of like how I felt about Henry Cavill after Man of Steel, where I was like, I think he's good. I think he's great. And he looks like fucking Superman. But I need more. I want to see I want to see more from Superman to know where he really stands, and I definitely want to see more from Robert Pattinson, which is a good sign. I didn't watch this movie and think, I want no more Robert Pattinson, no more Arbats. I really wanted to see more. Speaking of the cast, I have heard some mixed reviews about Zoe Kravitz, which I think is, I think people must be blind. Zoe Kravitz is a star. When she is on screen, I have an actual hard time paying attention because she's just so magnetic. You look at her as Catwoman and you feel, if you don't feel some kind of way throughout your whole body, you have no pulse. I mean, she, on a surface level, she's holy shit hot, like just the hottest person of all time. And then on a performance level, she oozes Catwoman. Her chemistry with Robert Pattinson is undeniable. To the point where, you walk out of the movie and you look up if they've hooked up, because I'm just like, how is this possible? Like, how can actors be this good? So, spoiler alert, there's some people who said that they did, but Robert Pattinson has a whole life and girl and everything. So it's probably they didn't, just fan speculation. But anyway, that's how good the chemistry is. That's the point of it. That's how good the freaking chemistry is. And so I thought she did an amazing job. We've had some really good Catwoman in the past. It's hard to top some of our previous ones, but she's in the top tier. She's definitely in the top tier. And I really loved watching her. One of my favorite parts of the movie was the villains. I think it was really, Colin Farrell takes the cake for me on this. I cannot believe what he was able to do as Penguin. It is truly mind-blowing, baffling that that's him in there. How the makeup, the prosthetics, the performance. If I did not know it was him, I would have absolutely zero idea who that actor was. You would never be able to guess. He transforms in a way that is like, holy shit. I mean, it might be the best on-screen transformation prosthetically and makeup-wise, and then character embodying, that I've ever seen, period. Just truly, truly phenomenal. John Turturro was legendary, as he always is. I really liked this take on Falcone. it's so funny because as a Batman fan, and if you guys read the comics or have watched the different shows, I, six of one, half a dozen the other with Falcone versus Falcone. I feel like all the the way that I was pronouncing in my head for so long was Falcone, and then like sometimes on Gotham people would call him Falcone. Sometimes they would say Falcone, but in this it's Falcone, and he does a really, really great job. He's a lot of people's favorite, which I think is such a testament to him, especially with when he's going up against maybe more popular villains, such as Paul Dano's Riddler or such as Penguin. But he does an excellent job. And so, casting wise, this movie really is a hit. They do great work. And Andy Serkis does. I would love to have seen more of him. He is not in a huge chunk of the movie, and I really would have liked to see him appear more. But when we did see him, he shines on screen every time. Jeffrey Wright, really liked his Gordon. He feels just so grounded, and I think that the connection there is awesome. I want to open this up to some questions to see what it is that you guys want to know about with the Batman. Remember, keeping it spoiler free. Let's see what you guys got. Alexander Wilson says some people said the weakest problem was the third act. Thoughts? I believe that the first half of the third act was one of the weakest parts. I believe the last part of the third act was one of the strongest parts. So I get where people are coming from. And I remember thinking in the third act, we're about, 10 minutes deep into the third act. I remember thinking, oh no, this movie isn't going to stick the landing. And then the ending had some real heart and soul to it in a way that I was like, "Oh, I actually really like what they're doing here." And I think that this came full circle, this came around because I see what people were saying, but for me, by the time all things were said and done, the third act got stronger as it went. And I would rather the first half of a third act not be great and the second half be great than the other way around, of course. Let's go into the Streamlabs and see what's going on this February 28th, Monday. Streamlabs.com/Roxy Stryer. Coming in from Lloyd Nancy says, hi, Roxy. Happy Monday. How was Batman? Well, Lloyd, talking about it right now. Let me know if y'all have specific questions. Glenn Caesar says, the Batman seems to be pretty good based on the non-spoiler reviews I've watched thus far. So I'm amped to see it, hopefully sooner rather than later. In the meantime, I heard that DC Movie News might be reunited for a non-spoiler review. Yes, cool. I think we are thinking about doing that a week from today. I think we're thinking about doing that Monday night. I'm not positive. We haven't confirmed the time with the boys yet, but Mikey Christmas put it in the chat the other day, and we're all into it. People need some time to see it, so we don't want to do a spoiler review too early. But then Sunday, we can't do it because I do World Girls. So hopefully Monday, I'll keep you guys posted on that, and that would be very exciting. Glenn Caesar also says, hello, good Monday, sending well wishes, bunnies, and hugs to me and my whole family. Says to be most excellent to yourselves and each other and to glow in your flow. And thanks me and anyone who's battling for choosing to. Thanks for showing up, being support for people around you whenever, however you can. Doing so, even when it's tough, makes you a winner. In the meantime, I hope you and the world feels more love. Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate you trying to feel that love. And it helps when you guys chime in and let me feel it. Let the love shine down. A couple more things about Batman. I saw a couple of you guys asking about post credits. I think the reason that you're hearing mixed things on if there is or is not a post credit scene is that there is a post credit thing. So I don't want to give you more spoilers than that, but there is not a post. I guess a thing is a scene, but I get why some people don't think it's a thing. It's just a little something at the end there, which is really fun. Story wise, if you love detective noir stories, I think you're going to be really into this. It's the first time we've really seen Batman go down this path. But as Darina said, it's a little bit simple, while, as I think, also biting off a lot because it's a 3-hour movie. So it tries to chew a lot, and it does require it to be 3 hours for it to chew everything that it bit off. Not one part of me was bored for 1 minute of this movie. Not one part of me was like, "Ugh, is this gonna be over yet, or is it 3 hours?" And that's a huge testament to how it looked too, because it's just a masterpiece. It's miraculous to look at, and so never am I sitting there thinking like, "Can you end yet?" I could have watched 3 more, 6 more, 10 more hours just because it almost was like living in a different world, which is really, really cool. Let's see what Ben Rayner has to say. Hi, or H Irony. Welcome back. Irony. Okay. I'm curious before this, who was your favorite Batman, Bale or Keaton or Clooney or Kilmer or Affleck? Mine is Keaton. How does Pattinson compare for you? How dark is this movie? Thanks for your questions, Ben. Definitely Bale is my favorite Batman. He remains my favorite Batman, and I think it'd be really hard to top Bale for me. I think it's for a few different reasons. Number one, a lot of our favorite Batmans are the ones that we really lived with and come in our formative years. I'm currently 30 years old, so at the time of the TDK trilogy, it was like me learning my full Batman-y power, being like, this is the best fucking hero. I love Batman. And Bale was there hardcore. Then, of course, you go back, you watch Keaton, you watch Clooney, you watch Kilmer, and all of them. I actually don't think there's ever been an atrocious Batman. I feel bad for Clooney and the kind of shit that he gets. I don't think that that was his fault, but I think that he ranks so far. Robert Pattinson would rank middle of the pack for me. Again, not really his fault. We haven't seen enough. And I lived with Bale for 3 fucking gangster movies. So I think for me right now, it probably goes Bale, then honestly, Keaton and Affleck are tied. I love Affleck so much. Then it would go Robert Pattinson, then Kilmer, then Clooney. I think that would be my order. Need to do a full rewatch as things age on you differently. How dark is this movie? This movie is pretty dark. It's not people are saying it has some horror elements. It's not dark like, oh fuck, this is so depressing and sad." It's dark as in it's a detective movie, so it's kind of like a crime, the underworkings of the city, how it all goes down, and so that's why it's dark, but I don't think it's too dark. And actually, I laughed quite a bit, and everybody's saying this movie was humorless, but I kinda laughed a lot. Granted, I laugh at a lot of different things, but yeah, I definitely had some chuckling moments. What other questions do you guys have? Streamlabs.com/Roxy Stryer. Super chat them in. Streamlab them in. Let me know what you want to know about the Batman before we get out of here. And if you have any follow-ups that you are curious about, I of course will be able to do a spoiler review not only for DC movie news, hopefully, but also here on this channel when you guys go see it. One of the things that I was most surprised about is how well this is doing on Rotten Tomatoes. As of this morning, it was at a 90%. I hear it's at an 88 right now, and I'll check it out. I was shocked. I thought this movie was going to be more divisive with critics than it was, especially because when I walked out of the critic screening, which you guys know I do not consider myself a critic. I think that that is a term that I could never use on myself because I just I I'm not versed in film enough in that way. I just like to watch movies and I talk about how I feel about it. But critics, that's their full-time job and they're really excellent at breaking things down and being a little more critical. I'm a little less critical and more like that movie was fucking dope, which is what the first thing I said when I walked out of this movie, by the way, was that was cool. It was cool. It was a cool movie. But when I walked out of the critic screening, the critics seemed unimpressed. And maybe that was just the vibe. You can kind of tell when critics after a movie congregate outside versus when they leave, and nobody was congregating. And usually people congregate to talk about the movie, and you know a bunch of the other critics there, so you kind of talk about it. But everybody kind of booked it. And that made me think, I don't think this movie would be upsetting to anybody. It doesn't do anything wrong. And I don't think that anybody could see this movie and be like, that sucked, because it clearly doesn't. But the vibe that I got was that a lot of critics thought this movie was okay. And then for the movie to have a 90%, I was like, wow, I'm just really surprised that the Batman is performing this well amongst critics who didn't seem to have that energy in the one screening that I went to. Okay, it currently has an 89%. I would put this at a solid B. Solid B. I know this isn't the way that Rotten Tomatoes works, but if I was ranking this on a 100% scale, I would probably give this an 85, 84, 85. Super solid B. could not if somebody said that this movie sucked, you'd have to fight them on it because how does this movie suck? But I also just don't think that it was the masterpiece that I might have been expecting to see, even though it's a visual masterpiece. Any final questions coming through? Yeah, let's go over to the Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/Roxy Striar, talking about the Batman. All right, coming in from Leonard Kim, he says, "Hey, Double Tits, Roxy, I hope you're doing well. How's your day going so far?" It's going okay, thank you. I'll talk about that in a second. Is the Batman set in current day or a different time period? Also, I'm just hoping for some great fight scenes. Does this movie deliver in that regard? The hair looks beautiful. I would have to rewatch the movie to know if it was specifically set in a different time. However, because of the grunge feel to it, it definitely feels like a 90s movie. But with some modern day stuff, but I think it feels more like a late 90s movie. Now, I don't know that that is accurate on when this is set, but that was the energy I got from it. And I don't know that they ever actually specifically addressed that. I'm trying to think of any of the title cards and if it came up what year exactly this was, which I don't think it did. I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Christian Hardesty in the Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/Roxy Striar says, "Hey, Rox, gonna see the Batman this weekend, but I'm way more excited about the Schmodown is back. Oh, the pay-per-view on Saturday had me running laps in my hotel room from getting so hyped. Wow, you're more excited about the Schmodown than Batman. That is what a wild world we live in. I'm happy to know that. And thank you for your support. We will see. We shall see. Some of the people on the interwebs, some of the critics who said on Rotten Tomatoes, here's some of the things they had to say from Christy Lemire, who said, "In Matt Reeves' confident hands, everything is breathtaking, alive, and new." To give it a 3.5 out of 4, I would agree with that. Everything did feel breathtakingly alive and new. Coming from Thrillist, from Esther Zuckerman, the Batman doesn't quite rise above its ubiquitous genre in the way that it maybe hopes to, but when it stays street level, it's tantalizingly creepy mystery anchored by Robert Pattinson's eerie take on the Caped Crusader. Again, you know how I feel about reviews that kind of do this. It's just like a bunch of words, but I do agree. I do agree. Some not so great reviews coming from Stephanie Zacharek from Time Magazine. Batman emerges from a movie universe now becoming ubiquitous, where a phony funeral worldview is the only thing that can confer depth. I don't even know what that means. Bob Bloom also gave it a 1 out of 4 from Journal and Courier. He says, "Reeves is aiming for a film noir like Batman story, but the Dark Knight, supposedly the world's greatest detective, does very little detecting of his own, mostly relying on others to unearth clues and pass them on to him." I would say that's a little accurate. That wouldn't make me give it a 1 out of 4, but that does seem a bit accurate. So there are some people that are not giving this a great review, but again, an 89%, pretty solid for this new Batman movie. Any final questions, comments, concerns? Yeah, Greg says people really like the word ubiquitous. I noticed that too. Makes him sound smart. Everyone likes a word that makes him sound smart, y'all. Any final thoughts? Let me know. I would love to hear from you guys. Streamlabs.com/Roxy Striar. A couple things coming through. Come through, y'all. Come through. Glenn Caesar says, "Thank you, Roxy, for doing your best to breathe and glow and radiate in each of your days, your weeks, months, and even your years. You've been there for us when the rain starts to fall. Thank you for being you always and always being an anomaly. Hope you remember to say to yourself, I'm kind, I'm caring, I'm full, unique, I'm good people. I'm vengeance. I'm worthy. My story is important, deserves to be seen and heard. Being kind, caring, and full, unique makes me humane, vulnerable, and a cozy fire to be near. Hopefully, you live in serenity and truly get to see, feel, and perceive yellow colored and green colored sparkles, manifesting happiness, joy, and healing in your day to day life today, tomorrow, and beyond. Your good people and inspiration and ultimate treasure. Wow, appreciate that. All right, friends, thanks for listening to me talk the Batman. Let me know what you think once you see it. Travis Gilbert, that review was a bit ubiquitous to me. I feel you, my dude. I feel you, John Bainbridge. Ubiquitous use of ubiquitous. Yup. Ain't that the truth? Today, if you guys want to see some more of me, become a patron for the World Girls Today I am talking about grief. I'm talking about losing a parent or whirl. Wow, that's very in line with Batman. And talking about real tangible tips on if you have lost somebody, a loved one, a parent, a family member, especially in everything that's going down. Hopefully that will be helpful for you guys. That will be in an hour on our Patreon, and it will be dropped as a podcast, but not for a couple months, I don't think. So if you want to watch it, come sign up for our Patreon and check out this episode. Hopefully it's helpful to you guys. And just like Batman, it's a little dark and gritty, but also got a lot of humor in it. I don't know if that's true about Batman, but it is about this episode. So I'll see you guys over there. I don't know if I'm here tomorrow. I know I'll be on SEN. And then very likely I will be here. I think I'll probably do a show tomorrow. Still getting back in the swing of things. Still definitely is a weird time. So thank you guys for being patient with me. Appreciate all your support. If you're watching after the fact, don't forget you can Streamlabs in streamlabs.com/Roxy Schreier, and I'll read them tomorrow on the show. And if not, just like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. I appreciate y'all. Stay safe, stay sane. Put down the toilet seat and lid. We don't want those buffoons. Make your bed. Don't trend with the Holocaust. Brett Miles Jonathan, arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. Of course, I'll be talking more about Ukraine throughout the week and the devastations that are going on with the war, and also about everything in Texas and Florida. I know we already did a show on that, but we will continue talking about that. But today was about Batman, and it was a nice little break for our brains. So I'm Batman, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay safe, stay sane. Later.